Emperor Heraklios. And Emperor Heraklios, for Muslims, he is like Emperor Octavian August, right? Because when we have the service for the Nativity of Christ, there are mention about August, right? That he was the sole ruler of the earth, because during Heraklius' reign, Muhammad started his mission, right? So therefore, he's very important for them. Now, there is a book that you can see in my script, a recent book by Jonathan Harris, Introduction to Byzantium. All right. Can you see the black screen now? No?
No.
You still only see my notes, right?
Yeah, just the notes.
All right. Okay. Fine. So there is this book, Introduction to Byzantium. You can see it now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's written in similar way as our textbook by Timothy Gregory. So it's very reader friendly, and it's not really written in specialized language. So I kind of would like to mention this book to you as well. Now, back to okay. The term Dark Ages that we are now about to enter means decline of classical education in Byzantium. Okay, and classical education is seen in the person of Procopius, right? Remember this analysis of Theodorus' speech that was written by Procopius, that he really would need to go a classical. You cannot just start. Write it from your own. You really need to have your point of reference in classical writers, those major fathers. And now there were few people who had luxury to obtain education of this level that would equip you with necessary tools, with necessary knowledge, plus also libraries became with destruction of Hellenistic or pagan centers of education. There were less and less books that would let you study antique, ancient writers or pre-Christian writers and so on. Right. Hand in hand with this was going decline of the units, major units of the ancient world. And those units, I mean, like city policies, right? That independent cities that had strong local representative structure, that would have a person, a wealthy man, who would make up for the deficiency in taxes and so on if necessary. So now state had to step in and take responsibility. So you kind of see how Justinian's novella about novella 6 about unity between church and state was played out. That state now became much more involved on local levels than it used to be in the antique world. Okay. Also, another thing, that somehow there were more shipwrecks during Justinian time than later, and also people didn't have like, okay, I have a friend of mine, my classmate from school in the Soviet Union, actually, strictly speaking, wasn't Russia yet, and he is in a big retail business. He is selling glassware. So understandably, when there is crisis, you don't buy a new set of glassware from IKEA or from whatever the store. You just use whatever you can, and maybe you just reuse even plastic cups, right? So, and the same thing, and that's what he was saying to me, that like people don't buy stuff, sort of, and therefore stores, they don't send orders, wholesale stores, they don't say new orders for glassware, right? For and there similar things is witnessed in the 6th century, because goods started to be produced locally, and luxury didn't really travel that didn't really travel long trade routes as it used to be. So, and there were fewer and fewer people who could afford this. Okay, so now Justinian and Theodora, they died childless. So they died childless, and similarly to his own situation, but with the difference that now he uh, appointed his nephew, right? His uncle was Justine. Now his nephew is Justine. So, and this Justin the second, I'm sorry, Justin the second, he married Sophia, Theodora's niece. So, and this Justin, he had to deal with the results of extension, of Justinian's overextension. So, kind of when you look at that map that we looked at yesterday, so it's very beautiful, sort of Byzantine territories all over Europe, all right, sort of Spain, North Africa, Balkans, Italy, right? It's beautiful. Okay, but then it's sort of like uh, kind of doing things with a credit card. It can be very helpful if you know what is your what is your step B is. If you don't have a step B, then you are ending up to be responsible for this debt that you accommodated with a credit card. So if you don't have any money coming in, right? So it can be a good boost for you to start something, but only with the idea you cannot live on credit cards. And that's somehow what made Justin temporarily losing his mind, because he was thinking how he's going to be responsible for all these waste territories, right? And Sophia, she appointed a gifted, able man, Tiberius. So they were in charge. But Justin then, he regained his mind. He regained this mind, right? And he got himself involved with the Persians, with the swear enemies of the empire, right? Uh, and then he appointed Tiberius, right, who helped Sophia. He refused to marry her, right, and then he married his daughter to Maurice. Okay, it's also all those things when we come across all those marriage alliances, we not just listen to this and don't pay attention. We kind of see, all right, so it was possible to have this uh, very impressive social elevation, social lift, right, through marriage in Byzantium. That's also how you get fresh blood into this. It's not just locked in nobility, in aristocracy. There was still opportunity from people of different classes to be on the very top of the pyramid in Byzantium.
Watch, are you saying that Tiberius kind of deposed Sophia as queen?
Kind of, yeah, kind of. He how to say, he bypassed her. That's it. Yeah, that's how I would like to say. He just bypassed her, right? So now meet new kids on the block, and those new kids, they are Avars, right? They are Caucasian people from Caucasus, right? Who also started to raid the territory. It's only a lazy person would not raid Byzantine territory if he couldn't, right? So uh, and Maurice, he was kind of, shall I say, greedy. Okay, so I mean, Maurice, he didn't really want, maybe I'm not sure what were his means, but he refused to pay for the prisoners of wars. And then Byzantines, they demonstrated they steal Romans, they started to throw stones at him. But at the same time, Maurice did one thing that was very, very important and helped huge time to Emperor Heraklios, for whom I have a soft spot. I mean, for Emperor Heraklios, right? So because Maurice, he, despite being, what is the word? Like, I mean, this Uncle Scourge, right? The guy who is greedy, right? Scourge, Uncle Scourge, right?
It's a Scrooge.
Scrooge, yes, Scrooge. It means greedy, right? So
yeah.
Uncle Scrooge.
Colloquially, it's come to mean that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a synonym.
So Maurice, despite the fact that he was so, how to say, economical with money, he nevertheless got involved with the Persians and helped there to establish the reign of Shah Khosrow. And this Shah Khosrow, he felt that he owes to Maurice, right? So that was a good thing. Okay. Now, soldier Emperor Phocas killed Maurice and butchered his 6 sons in front of his eyes, and then Maurice was killed. And this Phocas was a bad example of social life. He didn't belong to aristocracy, but then he kind of, similarly maybe to Ivan IV in Russia, he started to get rid of them, started to get rid of noble families in Constantinople. So he hated and was scared of noble families, and they hated him back. So now, because Phocas killed a great friend, not even friend, but a father, because Khosrow called Maurice his father, which is very unprecedented. So the Persians opened front lines against Romans, and they started to and they crossed into the Byzantine territories. Okay, so and that's where front lines came into being, because Carthage, North Africa, they were like Alaska or like Siberia, remote territories, but nevertheless connected with the empire for a long time. And those territories became crucial right now. Heraklios had his dad, his father, who also was Heraklios. So they organized a military naval expedition to Constantinople, and Heraklios was admitted by the Greens, who were in charge of the harbor, into the city, So focus was brought on his major ship. So and then he apparently, I mean, there is a rumor, right? A rumor that Heraklios asked him, "How come that you did so badly for the empire?" And reportedly, Focus said back to him, "So would you do any better?" So kind of, he was a soldier, emperor. He didn't probably afraid to die and so on. But we don't know whether this account is true or not. So Heraclius got rid of Focus, and he was proclaimed an emperor, right? But reportedly, Focus was able. I mean, not he himself, of course, before Heraklius' arrival, whatever remained from the gold reserve of the empire was destroyed. So Heraklius should be credited for rescuing empire from very bad conditions, right? Because somehow that what can be seen, and will be wrong to accuse Justinian in overextension. So he did his best, he meant well, but as a result, now Italy was lost, Balkans were started to be taken by the Slavs, right, and Avars, plus huge destabilization as a result of Focus terrorizing reign and empty state coffers. Another name for this period is Middle Byzantine state. Okay. So German tribes, Lombards, they raid in Italy, right? There are a couple of exarchates, one in Carthage, another in Ravenna, and uh, leaders of those exarchates, they have in their hands both political and military governors, political and military authority. And that became a blueprint for a later arrangement of femata, of fems. That's how major administrative unit or within empire, right? Sort of, there were governors who were both military commanders and civil authorities. So this is Italy, right? So this is Sicily, right here. So southern Italy remained Byzantine until the 11th century, and Venice, the most Byzantine of the Italian cities, was Byzantine until the 10th century. So the difference between the Germanic tribes and the Slavic tribes who started to penetrate into the Balkans, that Slavic tribes didn't have good structure, leader structure, but at the same time, it worked to their advantage because it was much harder to control them, since there would be just pockets of people, groups of people who would cross, who would burn, destroy, and do whatever invaders do, and then it will be much harder to chase them, much harder to round them up. Okay, but nevertheless, they started to settle in the Balkans. So okay, and Khosrow founded in Persia Sassanid Empire, and they were never been stronger. Okay. In 1614, Jerusalem is taken. Okay, so Christians massacred with helps of Jews who were oppressed, and true cross is taken away to Persia, and Patriarch Zachariah also taken as a captive to Persia. And next year, to add to Heraklios' headaches, Persians show up in the city of Chalcedon, in the town of Chalcedon, which is a half an hour boat ride from Constantinople nowadays. But luckily, the Persians, all they had rafts. They didn't have any navies, and Byzantines were still using their famous chain to lock a golden to horn, right? So, and Avars were pressing, right, into the empire, and it took a man as Heraklios, right? On the Easter day, on Easter Sunday of 624, he left Constantinople and he waged a mirror war against Persians, right? He started to raid Persian territories and he attacking Persian holy sites. And they were in this time, right? It was before Islam. They were still Zoroastrian, and their holy sites were desecrated, and the Armenians with their light cavalry gave Heraklios very good help in this situation. So the capital was left under supervision of Patriarch Sergius, who was still Orthodox at this time. In 4-year time, he became a monophylite. And
I'm sorry, what was that term? Monophylite?
Yes, monophilitism. Right. So, and Sergius is the one who composed the Akaphist hymn, the only Akaphist that is envisioned by our Typica, because Akaphists, they are not part of the Typica of the church staff of the, right? People like them a lot, but they are not really in liturgical order. So the Akaphistos that we have on the Saturday of Akaphistos during the Lent was written, unless there are newer hints, but conventionally believed written by Patriarch Sergius. So he apparently was a very capable person if he was left to be. There was another nobleman, of course, who was in charge of the troops, but the two of them were left in charge of the city by Heraklios. So, and he did well because Persians made deals with Avars, and Avars control the Slavs. So they put the city under the siege. And if I'm not mistaken, there were like 50,000 of 50,000 of them versus 12,000 of unmounted Roman cavalrymen who were inside of the city, keeping all those walls under control. But also you see how the Theodosians' walls were good with all their layers, right, of defense. So Heraklios defeated Persians on the outskirts of modern-day Mosul in Iraq, so which came, of course, big time in use during the Iraqi war. And the Byzantines were about taking the Persian capital, right? And the whole thing, the whole campaign with them went too far, and Khosrow started to face his own opposition in Persia, and as a result, his own son was involved in this, and Khosrow was he was there was plot against him, and he was killed. So he was killed, and a peace was made with Heraklios. The Byzantines withdrew from Persia, but Heraklios also became the first Roman emperor who started to use a Persian term, a king, right? Or basileos. And this was something that Alexander the Great would call himself, the Persians would call themselves, but it wasn't really a Roman thing, okay? Taking into account the all background of the Roman Republic, okay? So now Muhammad started to, so kind of it's never boring, right? It's never boring. There, what Heraklius achieved, what he achieved was unprecedented for any Roman emperors, because Persians, they were swear enemies of the Roman Empire for centuries. So now they are totally beaten and not a threat anymore, and so on. But immediately, right away, there is new thing, right? That Muhammad started to unite Arabic tribes. And the Byzantines didn't take it seriously, because for them, Arabs were just border raiders, like brigands. They didn't really, they would just raid and steal and take bounties and leave. But they heavily underestimated the situation, because now with new religion, Arabs, they became messengers of this new faith, right? So Muhammad moves to Medina, the holy city of Muslims, and a new notion of Ummah, which is state of the faithful versus infidels, right? So came into being. And Arabs started to expand, and they moved into the Byzantine territories. And Damascus became one of the first targets. So, and was taking. And now I would like to show that what we are talking about is still relevant, because in 636 there was the Battle of Yarmough in modern day Palestine, and the Byzantines lost to new Arabic wave of invasion. And one of the parameters I suggested you to keep in mind is rock figures, and Heraklius definitely is a rock figure. Another dimension is to measure history around the battles. And the Battle of Yarmough come very high on this list, similarly to the Battle of Manzikert in 1074, when the Byzantines, for the first time, they lost to the Seljuk Turks. So now the Battle of Yarmough, and I would like to show you a little, video clip that will give you an idea how this battle remains topical for Muslims' self-identity, right? Despite the fact that it's more than 1,000 years in history, but it gives you idea how historical events, how important they are. Okay, right, new. Okay. Can you see the screen now? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah, we can see that.
Those are troops. They demonstrate, said how the green ones, of course, Muslim, and the red ones are Romans. Read those comments underneath this video. So I think that gives you idea. That gives you idea that it remains quite a source of the proud for many Muslims, right? This event. Now let's get back to our stuff. Okay. Chat. What's going on here? Okay. Did I miss any chats? I'm not seeing. Was there any chats addressed to me or not?
Not really much. It's just in the video, like it had this like Philadelphia like Eagles type. Yeah, I just
Okay.
I found it funny how they were using like footage from Lord of the Rings. So I was like,
was it Lord of the Rings? That's right.
Like goblins and orcs come out with the
you see that's how reality is, because people steal products of whatever countries they live, right? Despite the fact they want to make out themselves whoever they want themselves to be, but they remain in reality who all of us are. We are all products of our times, of our milieux, and so on. Yeah, they are not born again Muslims of the 7th century. That's the thing. You cannot just do it. You cannot be born again Byzantine peasant or Russian peasant or whatever. So, but this Battle of Yarmough signified significant losses of Byzantine territories. So Jerusalem was taken in 638 by the Arabs, right? And this first generation of Islam, I mean, now when we think about sort of jihad, of course, modern days representatives of radical Islam come into mind. But back then, they were at the early stage of development, and often territories captured by this Arabic invasion meant that there will be much less heavily taxed compared with the previous Byzantine taxation, when the state, the empire, needed money much more badly, especially after Justinian campaigns and Justinian overextension and so on. And for many regular people, it was some kind of break, because Christians were left alone. There wasn't, as far as I know, this mindset, convert or die, right? They were left alone. And somehow it was easy, especially for those who were monophysites, for those who didn't belong to the imperial orthodoxy, to the church. They actually welcomed in Egypt. They welcomed Arabic invasion, because it meant that they would be left alone without attempts to convert them. Okay, but Carthage remained Byzantine, and Arabs shifted their attention to Persians also. Okay. And when in the next century, the see of caliphs moved to Baghdad, it became a very important and positive change for the Byzantines, because now the Muslim capital moved farther away from the border, and also they got more involved in the local affairs there in Baghdad, and they were not that close as they were in Damascus, and didn't represent a more substantial threat for the Romans. But also I mentioned Dark Ages, and mentioned a Middle Byzantine state, and Middle Byzantine state also should be understood that Byzantium becomes a regional power, right? A regional power, a little bit maybe like with the Soviet Union to the Russian Federation. So it's still sort of feelings that the Russian Federation is superpower, but possibly it is a regional power more than a superpower. So I think that was a similar process in the 7th century for the Eastern Roman Empire. So now they have to learn how to live with new neighbor, with new Arabic neighbors, and this experience became very valuable, and that was the experience that the Europeans started to get later, when the Arabs captured Iberian Peninsula, right? Captured Spain. So with this in mind, the issue of religious division was quite topical for Emperor Heraklios, because he already was losing territories to Arabic invasion, and he wanted to have more homogeneity. He wanted to have more cohesion, right? He wanted that his subject would be more on the same page regarding defending the empire, but not deserting to the enemies, right? So, and he produced a theological document which received the name Ekphasis, and you will be talking with Father John about this. And this was an attempt to reconcile Chalcidian orthodoxy with monophysitism. So, and it came up with a compromise which became known as monophilitism, right? And that's the time when St. Maximus Confessor actually was still was alive, and who didn't endorse this document, and who became a very important outspeaker for the universal truth for orthodoxy regarding the situation, where kind of everyone was silent about this and so on. And it took, but it's quite unprecedented story, because many people nowadays on the internet, they kind of associate themselves with Saint Maximus Confessor.
What was the date for this?
626. 626. Right, but again, it's church history. So thanks actually for asking, because I think I should get in my track. Okay.
Professor.
Yes.
Forgive me. I don't know why, but my connection just jumped out and it logged me out of the class for a few minutes.
I don't know either, so that's fine. I mean, I'm sorry that you were out of touch, but I don't know. Okay, what's going on there? One more. Right. Okay. So Heraklios had to deal with Emperor Justinian's legacy, which was Italy, and kind of, I'm not sure what was a gain from having Italy for the empire, right? It meant that he had to deal with Northern Europeans, with Northern Germans there, or Germans there, Lombards, right? And Italy aligned itself to Western Europe and not to Byzantium. That's the process, what was happening there. So Heraklios was married twice. His last marriage was against canon law, right? That he married his niece. He somehow developed a peculiar psychological melody, sickness, that he had scare of water. When he was traveled on a ship, they built like a garden for him. So it will be very popular nowadays, I think, all kind of explanations for everything. But he, I mean, for reasons, when he traveled on that ship, they had put like a palm, a tree, that he would always feel like he's on the shore. So he could not stand to be surrounded by water. But the fact that he could not reverse those losses, he became a champion of the Persian War, but he suddenly lost to people who came out of nowhere. So there is this description that he died as a broken, humiliated man, right? But Byzantium continued to dominate Mediterranean. However, the Arabs, they proved themselves as very quick learners, because by the end of the 7th century, they heavily competed against the Byzantines in the Mediterranean, to the point that they turned the Byzantine island of Cyprus into their naval base. And Byzantines had to evacuate people and so on. And then for a while, Cyprus was under dual authorities, Muslim and Christian. So Syria, therefore, was invaded and Damascus taking. At the same time, numbers of population reduced already during the Black Plague, the famous Justinian Black Plague, right? And Heraklios did well under circumstances. I don't think anyone. There was an Armenian commander who lost this battle at Yarmough, right? That happened, you know, what can be said. So I think he did very well under circumstances. And he actually rescued the major things that he should be credited, that when Constantinople was under the siege from the Persians, Avars, and Slavs, he rescued actually the empire, because it could have been taken, and he somehow mastered a counterattack, and he reversed things back. And defeated a swear enemy of the empire, but he could not see what was beyond the corner. Okay, so